Good morning, boys and girls. Today for Language Arts, we're going to be working on Unit 5, Lesson 12. And today we are going to identify the spellings for the past tense marker spelled ED. We're also going to read words with different spellings for the D sound. And we're going to answer questions about details in the story Jack's Tale. So just as a review, the past tense marker spelled ED makes three different sounds. That past tense marker spelled ED can make the ed sound at the end of a word, the d sound at the end of the word, or the t sound at the end of a word. And when we were in our classrooms, we had our little past tense marker song. Past tense marker, past tense marker, spelled ED, spelled ED. And again, that past tense marker spelled ED can make the t sound, the d sound, or ed at the end of the word. So let's review one of the sounds the past tense marker spelled ED can make, and that is the d sound, like in dot. So I want you to say the d sound to yourself a few times. D. Now, the d sound and t sound are very similar. They're sister sounds. So they sound a lot alike, but there's a little bit of a difference. If you put your hand on your throat and you make the t sound, you won't feel your voice box vibrating. You shouldn't feel anything. T. Now try and make the d sound. Do you feel the difference? You try it a few times. Now, there's a few different ways that we've learned to spell the d sound. We've learned to spell the d sound with the letter D, like in the word dot. We've also learned to spell the d sound with the double D, with two D's, like in the word add. And we've also learned to spell the d sound with ed, like in the word filled. So all three of these spellings make the d sound. Here are a few more examples. We can spell d with the letter D, like in the word dot, duck, or mad. We can also spell the d sound, like in the word add, with two D's, the double D, like in the word add, or matter. We can spell the d sound with the letters ed, like in the word filled, and planned, or trimmed. So again, three different ways that we've learned to spell the d sound with the letter D, the double D, or ED. Now today in Class Kick, you're going to be working on worksheet 12.1, which is a word sort, and you're going to be sorting words based on their spellings for the d sound. For example, the word down, I would write that word here because it's spelled with one D. The word add, spelled with two D's, I would put in this column. And And let's look at the word planned. Planned. I would write that word in this column because it's spelled with ED. In Class Kick, you're also going to be reading the story Jack's Tale. And before you read, I want to talk about a few things. First, I'm wondering what this word tale means. The story is called Jack's Tale. Now I know the word tail, like the tail of a dog, but there's also another meaning for that word tale. So sometimes when people go camping, they like to tell tales. And that word tale is another way of saying an entertaining story. And in today's story, a tale Jack shares. Oh, I'm sorry, today's story is a tale that Jack shares with Nan, Kate, and Max when they're sitting around after dinner. Before we read, let's look at a few of the spellings that we are going to find in today's story. We're going to find words spelled with the letter G with the J sound. So that J sound spelled with the letter G, like in the word ginger, legend, age, and gents. We're also going to find words with the OW sound, spelled with the letters OU, like shout and outlaw. We're going to read words with double consonants. For example, letter, robbing, tipped, and pass. We're also going to find a few tricky words, who, stagecoach, that's a new one, and wood. Now let's look at a few of these tricky words, a few of these vocabulary words that we're going to find. So this word stagecoach. Stagecoach. Stage is a tricky word. And this word coach is also a bit tricky because it has the O sound like in the word home, but it's spelled with the letters O and A. So in this word coach, the letters O-A make the O sound like in home. And this is a picture of a stage coach. Outlaw is a compound word, and I just wanted to point that one out because it's made out of two words, out and law. And this is an outlaw. We'll go over the meaning of these words a little bit more in just a minute. So here's some vocabulary that we're going to come across. These are ginger snaps. And ginger snaps are cookies and they are made from ginger. This word drawn, that means pulled in our story today. So this man in his buggy is being drawn or pulled by those horses. Now here's our outlaw. And outlaws are people living outside of the law. So that means that they do not follow the law. They do not follow the rules that we need to live by. You're going to read this word strong box. And a strong box is a box where things are placed to be locked up and kept safe. Over here you see a top hat, and that's a tall hat, and it's normally worn for special occasions. Now these people here are sharp dressers, and a sharp dresser is a person who wears really stylish and fashionable clothes. They look sharp. This man right here, he's tipping his hat. He's tipping his hat. And if you hear those words, tipped his hat, that means that someone lifted or tipped their hat as a way of showing a greeting, as a polite way of saying hello. These are gents. Again, that G with the J sound. And that word is short for gentleman. Nabbed. Nabbed. That's another way of saying caught. You're going to hear this phrase, did his time. Did his time, and that means that the person stayed in jail. Let him back out means that someone let him out of jail. So if he did his time, he stayed in jail, someone let him back out, he was let out of jail. All right, now you're going to head over to Class Kick to read Jack's Tale about outlaws.